Hello, Thomas. Okay, and
Hello, Wenbin.
yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to this special session. I am Wenbin Tang, co-founder and the CEO of Dexmal. Today we have Thomas Wolf, co-founder and the Chief Science Officer of Hugging Face, who has been a driving force in the open source community and the AI landscape. So, Thomas, it's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Wenbin. It's a pleasure to be here with you as well.
Yeah. Thomas, so I have been following your work for years, and I'm not sure everyone in the audience knows your full story. So would you start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I have quite a long story because I did many things, but I'll keep it short. I started as an engineer, did an engineering school. Actually, at that time, I visited Tsinghua. That was 20 years ago. I was studying as well, also Chinese back in the day. Then I went up to do physics. I did a PhD in quantum physics on high temperature superconducting materials. I did that for some time with a postdoc. I then totally pivoted and became a patent attorney. So I had an evening class in law and I became a lawyer. I did that for 6 years as well. And at the end of my patent attorney career, I had actually a lot of startup I was helping and that were starting to do deep learning. And that's when I discovered basically machine learning and deep learning. And so I found this really fascinating. I found this really like physics, but I would say way simpler to do experiments. You just run some work on a GPU and it's good. I mean, robotics is again much more harder, but like for LLM, you can do experiments quite easily versus physics. And so I decided to pivot and I joined and then later co-founded this company called Hugging Face, which was a game company at first. And that's why we have a non-serious name, I would say, which people find sometimes a bit funny. And we pivoted in 2019 from the game to the open source community that we've been building since, which now gather more than 4 million AI models, a lot of data set. I think we're probably around 400,000 data sets and also spaces. And at Hugging Face, we've kept expanding the scope of what we were doing, starting in text, then moving to image, video, speech, and recently, now, I mean, close to 2 years ago now, we started to explore robotics as well. So first on the software side, and more also exploring open source hardware, basically the whole stack as a way to bring more people in the field of robotics. I think robotics is going to be a very important technology of the coming years, and I would love to have as many people involved as possible.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to give a brief introduction of myself. And actually, Dexmal is a new company. We founded this company early this year. And so 10 years before, I started doing AI and doing image recognition in my previous company. And now, during the past 10 years, actually, we have shipped image recognition technologies and some autonomous moving robots like AMR, AGVs for the automated warehouses, and we have like shipped 10,000, more than 10,000 AGVs for the warehouses. And now, so we see how we can introduce the large models, the AI technology into the robotics. So we founded this company, Dexmal, and to do the embodied AI. So that's what we are doing now. Okay. And so Thomas, so we know you are a frontier in open source community. So how do you see open source shaping the next wave of the AI? So especially we are moving into the physical AI, like the embodied intelligence.
Yeah, in many ways, I think. Maybe the first way is we need to remember that all the advanced in AI really were based on open source. The transformers themselves, right, were open source by Google, and that's how we discovered they could be used, and that's how OpenAI discovered them as well. A lot of the recent architectural evolution of transformers have been also created by the open source community, including the the raw P positional embeddings, right? And it's kind of a co-creation from many teams around the world, from China, the US, Europe. So I think that's really the way great advances are made in the field. And I expect the same to happen also for robotics, which is by keeping an open source community active in robotics, then we will have a lot of teams, a lot of people able to understand where is the state of the art and to brainstorm the new developments, right? So I think this is very important. The second part is open source is very critical when we are tackling a new area. So there is many area right now in AI. I mean, for instance, just to take another example, just to illustrate the diversity of it, there is now like this interactive world models. So they are like a movie, but basically you can move, you can actually interact with the movie itself. And usually how people can tackle this area is they take a pre-trained model that is open source, for instance, a video model, and they adapt it. And so when you tackling something fundamentally new, you need to be able to take some open source model to be able to tweak them. If you don't have access to them, you cannot take Sora 2, I don't know, like and adapt it for your robots, unfortunately. So that's really key. And for robotics, I see the same, right? All these new VLA, the vision language action model, they start from an open source model that we tweak, we adapt to make it fit in our robots. So open source is really like the key element, I think, to be able to explore all these new capabilities. And then the third part is, I think open source is going to be even more important for robotics than it was for LLM. And the main reason, I think, is in robotics, I think there's a couple of things. In robotics, if you want people to use your robots and your model, they need to buy the robots. So that's kind of a constraint because people need to buy the robots to be able to use your model, while for LLM, you can just use it on the internet. But that's also a great thing, because if the model is open source, then your model can be used in many, many robots. And so a lot of people who have different type of robots will be probably able to more and more use kind of common brain for all these robots, cross-embodiment brain. And that's, I think, something very different that we didn't have for LLM. And that will be, I think, extremely interesting. And this is linked to open source, because if you want to share a model that works on all of these robots, it makes a lot of sense to have this model open source. And maybe last part, I said there's 3 points, but I can add a fourth point, which is for robots, it's really nice to have the model that run locally inside the robot. For many reasons, right? For safety, if you lose connection to the internet, if you lose like Bluetooth connection or Wi-Fi connection, you still want your robot to be able to safely finish what it's doing and not run crazy or not, freeze in the middle of like a complex operation. And really, the natural way to have this is to have a local model that actually run embedded in the robot. And most of these local models right now, at least all of them actually are open source models. So I think there is a lot of like really things that make open source extremely natural to complement, the hardware development in robots.
Actually, you launched this project, OpenLM leaderboard. So the leaderboard can evaluate this large language models. So from your experience, what do you think about the open and transparent benchmarks? So how they can impact the new field for example, since a new field like embodied intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, your question go in the right direction, I would say. I like them, but yeah, it was very important. We were even us. We were very surprised how fundamental how important for the field the OpenLLM leaderboard was. So we had this leaderboard for a couple of years, and then at some point we decided to retire it, mostly because a lot of its evaluation was saturated, but also mostly, I would say, in large part because the whole world moved from LLM to agents. And I think it was a bit strange to still measure this LLM on like this one-shot answer, on knowledge, because a lot of the thing we wanted to have LLM do was more acting as an agent in an interactive world. And which actually start to bring LLM more and more close to robotics, because robotics is also all about acting in a world that reacts to what you do. And so, but when we retired this leaderboard 1 year ago, like people were really like very sad. Like a lot of people reach out and say this was a corner. I think the main thing is with kind of the race dynamic with all these lab competing with each other, they tend to try to push the metrics, in their direction. They tend to want to, for instance, evaluate their model, in the best setting, which makes sense, but sometimes might be in particular when they compare to other model, they might kind of not put the other model in the same favorable setting. And so having an independent place where we would just take all of this model independently and really measure them in a very like standardized, reproducible way. You had like this exact line that you could actually run at home to reproduce the benchmark, I think was very important. And having a little bit of an independent entity that would, take a look at each of these models and try to cut through the noise of the hype and the really crazy video demonstration was very important. And I think that's something we lack a bit in robotics as well, which is, first, it's very hard to do real evaluation in robotics, right? It's like really, really difficult. And then it's even compounded by the fact that everyone tend to cherry pick, video where they show their robots in the best settings. So there is really, I think, a need for some kind of independent evaluation and someone, or at least a team that would tackle this problem, at first and try to see, can we actually, make a good evaluation in robotics where we start to get a good picture of what are the best VLA, what are the best technique right now. I think that's a bit of prolongation of what we started to do in Le Robot, which is our software library, and where we wanted to build a common one repository where you could bring all these new training techniques and try to compare them side by side with as few differences as possible, right? You could just change one command line argument and switch from one training method, let's say ACT, to another one, let's say, diffusion policy. And so that's what we tried to do, but it's only one part of the thing, because we still have to, even though we have this single software that can run many policy, we still have to run them in an environment. And then that's the problem, right? That you and the Dexmal team decided to tackle.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think so. So for now, a lot of the robotics research is it happens in simulation environment, and so we all know there is a big sim to real gap, and some method just work on perfectly in simulator, but completely fail in the real world. So I think it's really important to have a real world evaluation system. And for now, and for this area, and we do not have a unified, open, reproducible benchmark, so we can fairly compare all the methods for all the policies, all the models. So we do not have that. So we are thinking about, so what can we do? So how about to make those kind of a platform? So yes, that's why we are doing this RoboChallenge.ai. And we are really glad have Hugging Face in this project, and also we can together build a unified, open, and reproducible benchmark platform.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I think it's very needed. Can you tell us? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the challenge, maybe?
Yeah, more time for advertisement. Okay, so I already talked about the why we want to start this platform, because robots are stepping into our daily lives, from factories to homes, and the research on this area actually is very hot, like the VLAs, but there is still no unified way to measure the progress, and we can compare the models in real physical robots. So most benchmarks today is still based on simulation. So due to the sim to real gap, so actually we don't know which model is better, and we don't know the real performance. So we we are asking ourselves, so if we can build an open, standardized way to evaluate the models and based on the real robots. So that's why we built this platform, RoboChallenge.ai, and it's a real world complement to the simulation. So we can bridging the gap, and we provide the shared data and a standardized evaluation. So here we offer benchmarks, and we offer remote testing. So researchers and anywhere in the world, they can run real robots experiment online. They can submit their models, and we provide the leaderboard. And actually, so this platform, it's not easy to do. There is a lot of dirty work behind. For example, first we try to build reproducible and a fair testing in real world. So it's not easy to control all the factors like the robot setup, the environment setup. It's a lot of factors we need to control. And the second, how do we expose the robots to the users submit their models? So robots is hosted in our site, and the models is not, and it's not easy to deploy the model. So we need to find a way, and then we develop a mechanism called remote robots. So we do not need the user to submit their models to our site. The model can be hosted on user side, and the user can access our cameras, robots through a HTTP API. So that's what we are doing. And the third, the benchmark. It's not easy to define the benchmark. So we provide table 30 as the first, as a starting point. It's not a final one, but I think it's a solid first step, and with a reasonable level of difficulty. So we can use this as a starting point to evaluate and to provide information for all the participants. And of course, we are going to work closely with our committee and as a community to define what is a truly golden benchmark in the future. Yeah, so there's a lot of details and a lot of dirty works. And so we published a tech report about this, and which can be downloaded from our website or from archive. Okay, so in short, RoboChallenge is a benchmarking platform, and it's all about making embodied intelligence research more open, more fair, and more accessible.
That's very nice. And there's a lot of challenge here, right? On exactly that you're tackling on how to control this from distance, how to allow fair evaluation when you're not in the room. And I think you have a very nice and pragmatic way to challenge, to solve these challenges. So that's really exciting. Congratulations, good work.
Yeah, and you are part of this.
Yeah, I think generally this question is about also how to bring the community around to build robotics, and robotics has some challenges here because the robots needs to be in one place. Like you can build code on GitHub and everyone feel like they're around the same code base, but for robots we need to find a way how to feel like robots are being built in a community. And I'm curious to know, how you see the community here, and maybe what part of the community are you most excited to see joining the RoboChallenge? Is it more like academia? Is it maybe more like company, or is it more maybe even hobbyists? Or who do you expect to see joining?
Yeah, I think so. Our first benchmark is for general policies. It's for base model. So I think so who is doing the base model now? I think it's academia and the companies. Yeah, for hobbyists. So we may start some. We may define some small challenges for the individuals, for the developers. But for now, the base model testing, I think the evaluation is more likely for the academia and for the startup companies. And actually, so we already have a lot of the open source models like ACT, like Pi 0, Pi 0.5, and actually, so we can test the models by volunteer because we have the we can download their models, right? And so in our benchmark, we released some fine-tuning data for the 30 tasks. Yeah, we released for each task, we released about 1,000 episodes of the task. So the developers, they can download the data set and to fine-tune their model and to test their performance on this kind of the tasks. So I think the users, the firstly will be the academia and the startup companies.
Interesting. Yes, and you're right that I think another big challenge is around the data and how people can get access to the data. So I think it's also very nice that you're open sourcing, 1,000 episodes of the tasks, because that's a key challenge in robotics, which is that we don't have the internet size, to train our robots on, and most of the time people need to build their own data set. And I think that's also somewhere where longer term the community can be really a key unlocker, which is, if some of the largest and like some of the maybe most active teams in terms of data annotation decide to open source a part of it, then we could possibly build like a very large common data set to train robots. And I think I would be very excited to see that happening, and that Hugging Face. That's we've taken small steps in this direction, like trying to make a standardization around the data format first and see if we can get people to merge and to bring their data together much more easily. And I think it goes usually hand in hand with better evaluation as well. So I see these two trends, as very essential and interesting for the development of general robotics. And we do see on the Hugging Face hub, we do see like the number of community provided data set to follow really an exponential. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of signs of optimism there. I'm very confident that the future will actually bring even more open source data sets to train and to fine tune our robotics models.
And Thomas, how do you think the community spirit can help the development of the robotics and embodied intelligence?
I think everyone can already start today by getting one of these cheap robots. Some of them that we provided ourselves, like the SO100 or Richie Mini that we will ship later this year. And try to collect data sets and share it with everyone. And the more diversity, because obviously the key challenge here is not only the size of the data set, but the diversity. So if we have data set collected in many, many different places, it's pretty sure that we'll be able to train, much more robust policies for the robots. And that's what we want, right? We want our robot to be able to enter any house in the world, be it in Europe, in China, in the US, and kind of find its way. And so I think the community can definitely help by providing more data, can also help by, exploring the algorithm, how to fine tune this policy well, how to train them, what are the right architecture, what is the right data mix, the right training schedules. There's a lot of this here that people can explore. And the nice thing about robotics for now is that the models are still rather small, I would say, in a way, and also by constraint, because a lot of this model have to run on embedded in the model. And so it also means that you can usually train them quite decently at home or in smaller setups. So it's yet another reason, I would say, for the community to really not hesitate to join robotics and to participate in all these initiatives.
So Thomas, as a co-initiator, so how do you think the next step of RoboChallenge, the AI platform?
Yeah, I think we should try many many direction. I mean, this is kind of the first case of trying like a real life, open robotics challenge. So I'm excited to see how this unfold. I'm excited to see if developers really, embrace the idea and submit their models, and to see if we can have like a lot of activity. It would be really great. We will see. I think in the general picture, I think that's also one evaluation. I think people should also still keep evaluating in many different way. Also in simulation, of course, that's much easier. And I think just like in LLM, we'll have many evaluation probably, with some of them becoming the most important. Maybe like MMLU was for at some point LLM, and then SWE bench maybe later in time. But at first, I would encourage them, yeah, come submit your model. Let's try this new benchmark, and let's see if this one is the right one. I'm quite hopeful. I think it's been carefully designed. I think it's interestingly different than what's out there, and it's a first attempt. But also, I'm pretty sure we'll need to make some things evaluate in the future. But I think it's a very good first step in the direction of having real life benchmark, and I'm very, very excited about this direction.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and in my opinion, RoboChallenge, yeah, so what we are doing now, so we follow a full open policy. Yeah, so we invite, so we're offering a free evaluation service, so everyone can submit their models. So we do the evaluation and we rank them. And so for the first benchmark, so I think it's I think just the first step. I don't think it's a golden benchmark, but just a first step. So we can have some, we can compare some models in real life based on real robots. So based on them, we know something, and then we can define the next benchmark. So what is the best benchmark, and we can evaluate a lot of things, because since the technology is, for example, the multi. So we can also define some multi-dimensional leaderboards, like long horizon tasks and the interactive tasks. Yeah, a lot of things. So I think it's a lot of things we can do. So provide a reproducible, open, unified platform, so we can compare. That's what we want to do. So I think it's will be good things for the community, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess just like you say, if we look ahead, long terms, in 3-5 years, where embodied intelligence research is, probably we will see, robots tackling longer and longer tasks, from a few minutes right now to like a few hours and then more. And I guess the benchmark will also have to reflect that. So yeah, I'm curious to see which benchmark we will have in 3 years. They'll probably be very, very impressive to us and today, and we will be like, wow, you can actually ask a robot to work for a full day on a complex task, and that's actually our benchmark now. But that's what I expect on my side, which is in 3 to 5 years, we'll actually ask a robot a very generic, long horizon task and let it run and do its life, basically.
Yeah. So multimodal perception and dynamical environment adaptation and the long horizon tasks. Yeah, a lot of things we can test, and that's what we are. The technology is evolving. Yeah. Okay. I think it's pretty much. Yeah. Okay, Thomas. That means a lot. So we truly believe RoboChallenge can do for embodied AI. What open LLM leaderboard do for the language models. So let's work together to help. Yeah. So we have a benchmark and to help the community.
Exciting. Thanks. Let's go.
Thank you, and thank you everyone. Yeah, for tuning in. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, and to everyone watching. RoboChallenge.ai is now live. Here we define the standards for evaluating the capabilities of the robots and models. We define, we compare, we share, we develop, and we make progress together. So if you are interested, join us as a partner or as a participant. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye.